Welcome back to 535. I'm Mariana Sotomayor, Congressional Correspondent at Puck. So in the last couple of weeks, I would say a couple of months, you've heard some chatter about prediction markets, just what lawmakers could be doing on insider trading, which is a totally different subject, but all of a sudden, it's kind of become the topic of conversation here on Capitol Hill. So many different lawmakers introducing bills, again, meeting in a bipartisan setting. And one duo is Congressman Adrian Smith, Republican from Nebraska, and Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski, Democrat from Illinois. The Congresswoman is joining me now.
Great
Thank you for being on. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So give our viewers a debrief on what exactly this bill is, because again, I feel like everyone's introducing their own piece of the pie.
Yeah.
It's a big issue to talk about.
It is a big issue. And at home, I think this is a common sense piece of legislation that I think people at home are like, of course you should be doing this and passing this. What it would basically do is say, for people like myself as a member of Congress who has access to sensitive policy information, we shouldn't be able to then turn around and monetize that and make a profit on that information through our public service on the prediction markets. I'm really proud that the bill that we have, the PREDICT Act, is the only bipartisan bill in the House. Right now, you mentioned my friend Congressman Adrian Smith is doing this bill with me. That I think, again, I think this should garner, we've been growing in bipartisan co-sponsors right now. I think we're up to 28 different Republican and Democrats to join this bill. But what it would do is to say that we shouldn't be able to, as elected officials, our dependents, so our spouses as well, or even our senior staff. I mean, senior staff also have access to some of that sensitive policy information. We shouldn't be able to turn around on prediction markets and make a profit. It's an insider trading type thing that I think could really get to, we want to rebuild public trust. I think this is a step forward in that direction. And I think it's common sense, like I said, when the Trump administration came in and took Maduro and went into Venezuela, this is when the issue really came front and center for me, I would say, because we knew that a few very small select number of bidders on the prediction markets, on Polymarket, actually made up to $1 million with a very precise amount of information to make that bet. And so that's what kind of initially got both Adrian and I's attention to introduce this bill. But again, something I hope we can take action on in the House.
Yeah, you referenced this. I know 60 Minutes recently reported that 9 Polymarket accounts have made more than $2.4 million betting on U.S. military actions with a 98% rate. I mean, how does your bill address a situation like that specifically?
Well, basically what it would say, it would forbid those if we actually were able to prove that those were people within elected office or people within the government at senior levels that had that information that then turned around and monetized it. We actually, our bill is the most comprehensive in providing safeguards. So you would have to pay back if it was actually proven that you did place that bet. You'd have to pay back, and then the money that you made, and then a little bit of a fee on top of that for placing the bet. So a little bit of a penalty. But we would have an apparatus that would actually be able, through the Ethics Committee, actually look into it, investigate it, hold those people accountable for doing it, and then there'd be a financial penalty to them if it was proven that they did take advantage of the market.
So it's interesting you mentioned that it has to go through the Ethics Committee. Obviously the Ethics Committee is constantly reviewing, investigating. It's very rare that they put out statements, right? Sometimes they become the center of attention, as we've seen in recent weeks for other matters. But does that mean you kind of have to rely on a tipster, a source, a leak to say, hey, Ethics Committee, I know that this, whether it's a staffer, a lawmaker, or who's to say a lawmaker's kid who was just overhearing a conversation when the parent was at home, like, is that what it would take to be able to investigate?
I think it would take something, an incident like the one that you just mentioned that's highly suspicious, where people made $2.4 million, a very precise bet on, again, something related to war or military action. It raises suspicion, and just applying common sense to that would say, maybe this is something that we need to refer to ethics, have them look into. And that's how the Ethics Committee actually, again, a bipartisan committee looks into these types of issues, and we just want to make sure that they have the purview and the ability to enforce. And so that's what our bill would do, and that's why I'd say our bill is the most comprehensive. There was some legislation that came out of the Senate. Senator Padilla actually led some legislation, which is, I think, a really positive step forward, and I think indicates in the House side the PREDICT Act should then be called next.
Yeah.
But even our bill is more specific in making specific referrals around the Ethics Committee, enforcement, penalties, and that's why I think we have the best bill that's being put forward.
Yeah, so Polymarket and Kalshi, so because there's just so much conversation up here about this now, they are trying to just strengthen their policies to try and prevent or restrict any insider trading. I mean, do you trust them to actually be able to do that?
Well, we've met with industry, and one of the things I'd say I'm really proud of is Kalshi has actually endorsed the bill that we've put forward. Actually, Kalshi is voluntarily actually abiding by those guidelines of not saying that elected officials and those in public office shouldn't be utilizing prediction markets. If you want to take a bet on like the Final Four or something in sports, that's totally different. I still believe you should be able to do that as an elected official. This is just specifically related to public policy. So Kalshi's already actually done this. They support our bill. And we've met with kind of the broader collaborative in the prediction market space, and they too have indicated support. I think it's positive whenever industry wants to come forward and do right by consumers. So yes, I celebrate that, but I think putting it into law and making sure that consumers have those safeguards and know that we're addressing, again, at a time when Congress is facing all-time record low approval ratings when it relates to public trust. This is just one thing we can be doing in Congress to help to rebuild that, put it into law, and make sure that industry is following it.
Yeah, you talk about public trust. So like the approval rating for Congress has been low for a long time. It continues to be. But like you mentioned, this bill has a whole number of co-sponsors, from truly the most conservative to the most liberal here on the House side. What is the path forward? Like, do you actually think that this could get onto the floor?
I do. I really do. We've actually sent a letter to the Speaker, urging him to take action. This is the time when we've seen the Senate actually take action on this issue. The House should do the same thing. I think Representative Smith and I's bill is the perfect vehicle for that because, to your point, we have a broad array of co-sponsors on both the Republican Conference and the House Democratic Caucus on our bill. So I think now is the time. And I would say too, for me, this is one tool. I think getting at a broader issue around corruption, I've signed on to legislation to ban stock trading for members. I believe in the fact that we need a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. That's speaking for myself. I think there are things that we can be doing in addition to addressing these conflicts with prediction markets that I think will help rebuild public trust. But a really good first step would be this bipartisan bill.
Are there any discussions yet on, if this doesn't get onto the floor, discharge petition? Because that seems to be one way to force leadership to hold some votes on these bipartisan men.
Yeah, discharge petition, that is definitely this congressman, the modus operandi of like how to force a issue. I do think this is common sense. I think if you probably polled this in any district, you would see broad support for this issue. So I think as we continue to build and add co-sponsors, that should be on the table. But I think our hope is that leadership will take a look at this common sense measure. This isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. This is about, again, the public trust, creating more transparency for taxpayers, and a common sense initiative that I think should happen.
Yeah, corruption is one of the biggest planks, I would say, and something that's very personal to Leader Jeffries, that if you all take back the majority, there's a lot that can happen in that space. Are you talking to him, or have you pitched him pretty well and saying, hey, if this doesn't pass this year, we got to make it a priority in the next Congress?
Yes, we definitely have. We've been in touch with leadership staff about making sure that as the leader is looking at what is our agenda around corruption, rooting that out. I think that the PREDICT Act is just a perfect bill to fit into, again, I think a whole suite of different issues that some of them I mentioned that I think they might be considering. I think tackling the issues around prediction markets is just a common sense thing to add into that agenda.
Well, Congresswoman, you only have a couple minutes,
Okay.
which is perfect for our 5:35 1 minute.
Great.
So I like to say it's not a magic minute, sorry. You don't have the leadership power yet. But
Right.
here's some rapid fire questions.
I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business.
Unanimous consent.
I ask unanimous consent.
The senator from Nebraska is recognized.
The gentlelady is recognized.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
What is the best and also the worst part about being in the House of Representatives?
Oh, the best part, I would say, honestly, is my colleagues. Like, I love it's just like a vibe on the House floor and getting to talk to so many people with so many different backgrounds. You meet people from all across the country, and I tend to be a more bipartisan member, so I work with Democrats and Republicans, and so getting to kind of meet people from all walks of life is really a very unique experience you get as a House member.
Sure.
I would say the thing that is like the most challenging is our schedule. You know, we
Yeah,
were just talking
fair.
before we went on air, am I going to be here on Friday or am I going to be here on Saturday? The unpredictability of it and how to plan for that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people at home don't understand as much that like back and forth and how much we're here and how much we're all eager to get back home. So the schedule is probably the trickiest thing to navigate. But a lot of my colleagues are, you know, on a day-to-day basis what makes it fun.
Got it. Yeah, I think all of us on the Hill in this ecosystem are always wondering what the schedule is.
Yeah, I'm sure you're
'Cause
living
even
and die by
friends
it
back
too.
home are
Yeah.
like, wait, are you going to make it this week? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the best food in your district? Where can we find it?
You know, I guess I would say I love this place called Cafe Moxo, and I would highlight them because they had a business downtown Springfield that burned down. There was a fire in downtown Springfield that really hurt our downtown community. They actually reopened. They have some of the best cookies. They have the best Rice Krispie treats. I know that's not like
No, that's awesome.
a secret sauce to a great Rice Krispie treat, but they've got it if there is one. And they make homemade soups. I mean, they're always busy during lunch. I always go there when I'm home.
Yeah.
Love them.
Okay, so what is your favorite phrase uttered nowhere else but here in the Capitol?
I would say I'll say my favorite phrase that I use a lot is "Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good," and I hear that from other members.
Yeah.
That is really truly something that, as a legislator, I like to embody, which is I want to get things done for my constituents, and I think learning about the legislative process as I have since this is my 4th year is that very infrequently are you going to find a bill on the House floor that is perfect, that scratches every itch you want. But if it moves the ball forward for our communities, I think that's really important. And I work with a lot of legislators that also use that phrase. And so I'd say don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good is what I like.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
You're
This is a really
welcome.
great conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. We'll be right back.